day, all you critical readers and writers. Welcome to the most current and second to last video installment of the semester. I'm sure you're very excited about that, as am I. So far, you guys have read literacy narratives and written about them. You have interviewed classmates about their literacy experience and written about that. This past week, you looked online for some research articles, found one, wrote about that. Now it is time to put all of that together. Okay, so your first, or your rough draft for your literacy narrative is due this week, sometime before Friday at 11:59 p.m. So you guys have all this week to complete a rough draft and put it in the assignment folder by essentially midnight on Friday. What is that draft supposed to look like? Well, I'm going to walk through some of the basics with you guys, but the entire list of requirements, as well as framing language and all sorts of context that you absolutely need to read, is on my courses. It'll be right below this video with a link that says check here for this assignment requirements. Okay, so make sure you read through those, please. But essentially what you're doing in this rough draft is you're thinking about all the work that you've done over the past 6 weeks, the brainstorming exercises that I had you do, the articles you've read, the interview you conducted. You're putting it all together. You're going to tell a story about yourself as a literate person. What is your story? What is your literacy narrative? And as you tell that story, make sure to explore the themes that you identified and I gave you feedback on a couple weeks ago. That's the overall goal. How do you do that? Well, as you tell your story, to make this a researched literacy narrative, you're going to have to incorporate some source material. So you have an option here. Ultimately, you will have to integrate at least one direct quote from the interview of your classmate. Okay? You guys did those interviews via email, so you have the written transcript of those interviews. So you can very easily look at that and integrate some sort of language from that interview into your paper and discuss it and analyze it. You might think about, how does what your classmates said connect to your sources? We'll talk about that in a second, what those are, or your own story or the theme that you're exploring. So make sure first and foremost that you talk about the interview of your classmate. Then you need to integrate at least 2 more texts. One can be a class reading, so anything that we've read and talked about this semester. Anything. Okay, from Mike Bunn to Malcolm X. Anywhere, any of those, either of those, and anywhere in between. But you do need to use at least one research article that you found on the database. That's why I had you guys write that research article write-up. So you came to terms with it, and now it's about putting it to use in your own narrative. Okay, so one class reading, one research article, and something from the interview of your classmate. If you want, and you don't want to talk about something, a reading that we discussed as a class, and you found 2 research articles that you think really connect to your theme that you're exploring, I'm more than fine with you guys utilizing 2 sources from the database that you found, as long as you still have that quote from your peer. The goal here is to have 3 sources, okay? One is your own primary research that you did with the interview, and 2 are scholarly sources. Again, all of this is articulated in my courses as well. Our first assignment was 1 source, our second assignment was 2 sources. Now we're building up, our final assignment is incorporating and analyzing 3 sources. So once you've done that, you've told your story, you've integrated source material, now it's time for your conclusion. Okay, so what? That's the big question we ask when we're writing conclusions. Why is your story important? Okay, what can we learn from it? You guys have read other people's literacy narratives and learned things from that. What do you think someone else might learn from your experience as a literate person? Why is it important? Tell us. And ultimately, what argument or claim are you making about literacy and or language? Think back to the themes that you guys came up with. How are you, at the end of the day now, identifying some sort of main idea that you have come up with about literacy and language and what that means for people moving forward in the world, okay? Or for yourself, for that matter. Again, this rough draft is due on Friday, sometime before midnight. As always, I will have my office hours on Monday afternoon from 3 to 5 p.m. using Zoom. You can drop in, talk to me then. If y'all want to talk to me during the week, shoot me an email. We can also Zoom at a time other than Monday from 3 to 5. Just let me know that you want to do that and I'll set it up. The only other thing I wanted to say is that once you submit your draft, I'll be getting the feedback back to you as quickly as possible because your final draft will be due the first week of May. But I'll talk all about that next week in my final video. Okay, hope you guys are doing well. Miss you. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Let me know if you need anything. Bye.